At 7:01, I will open tonight's meeting of the Lunenburg Select Board, Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded. Actually, hold on a second. Pat, can you tell me whether it's being recorded? And I may have to say this all over again.
Tom, it does show recording.
No, that's Zoom, but I want to see if they're broadcasting.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and they are. Okay, so again, you have joined the Lunenburg Select Board Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 meeting. In accordance with the requirement of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus, and steps communities can take to prevent its spread, and all town facilities are open by appointment only. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be broadcast live through the local access channel, on Facebook Live on the public access Facebook page, and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after its conclusion. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. If you have a computer, a smartphone, or a tablet, and you have the Zoom app, you can join us by going to Zoom, and tonight's webinar ID is 909-174-0347. If you would like to participate but don't have a smart device or would like to join by phone for some other reason, you can dial 1-888-475-4499. And again, the webinar ID is 909-174-0347. If you would like to speak during tonight's meeting, if you are using the Zoom application, please familiarize yourself with the raise your hand function, and I will see your hand being raised and we'll call on people accordingly. If you're on a phone connection, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. And again, I will call on people whose hands are raised at the appropriate time in the order that you raise your hand in general, unless somebody's responding. So it really is chair's discretion. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permissible by the open meeting law. Let me be probably the millionth person to say I won't rue the day where I don't have to read that intro anymore. So hopefully sooner than later. I will call tonight's meeting by roll call vote, just to make sure people are present. So in the order I see people on the screen, Mr. Dwyer.
Present.
Ms. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Marino.
Present.
And I am present. Mr. Jeffries will be arriving late as he is caught in traffic back from the city. And Madam Town Manager, you are with us.
Present.
Okay, excellent. So welcome to a new season of Select Board Lunenburg. Glad our contract got renewed, and we'll be with you all year on Tuesday nights, except for the last Tuesday of every month. I would start tonight's meeting by, of course, handing it off to our allegiance leader, Ms. Adams. So if you would take it away and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So do I have any opening comments from the board this evening? Well, I will welcome everybody. I hope everybody had an enjoyable holiday season And as we go into the new year, hopeful with vaccines in distribution. So hopefully that will happen quickly, and I hope everybody has remained as safe as they can be during these times, and look forward to, along with probably billions of people on the planet, a better year than last year. Any public comment from the public? Seeing no hand raised. Okay. Announcements. I only have one announcement. Just for those people traveling this road, so Flat Hill Road, on the area where the bridge crosses the Catacoonamug, that has been reduced for public safety reasons to 1 lane. So obviously it's still a 2 direction road, but over that bridge, it will only be 1 lane. So it'll be marked off and coned until further notice, as inspection was going on, and as the DPW and the public safety and town hall hears what needs to be done with the bridge after the inspection. But for the time being, it will be 1 lane. So please use appropriate caution as you go over that in both directions to make sure that everything is clear. That's the only announcement I had. Madam Town Manager, do you have any announcements?
Just a couple as well. So on Sunday, January 10th, the Lions Club will be holding a Christmas tree recycling chipping event, and they'll be accepting donations in exchange for Christmas trees. And Lakeview Landscaping will be conducting the chipping in an appropriate area, cordoned off. So, and that will be behind the Ritter building on that lawn area where the old police department used to be. So I believe the hour.
Where the farmer's market is?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll enter School Street, and there'll be signage there.
Cool.
The other, I did get late notice. I don't have a lot of information on this, but the police chief did let me know that he heard from Mass DOT regarding the bridge work on Mass Ave, Route 2A. That project has gone out to bid, and they're anticipating a start of mid-year for that bridge work project.
Which bridge?
The bridge on Route 2A.
Yeah, 2A where?
Maybe Chief Marino, former Chief Marino can identify the exact location.
Right, it's right in front of Mackey Home Center.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that
Right.
was even a bridge. I never really paid much attention, I guess.
Not very obvious, but
Right, okay.
fairly large bridge.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Okay, it's 7:05. We have an appointment for a common victualler license hearing for KCM Donuts, Inc., doing business as Dunkin' Donuts at 451 Massachusetts Ave. We have the documents in our Google Drive. And I see we have the applicant, John Nedreau, is with us, so I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Hello,
Good evening, Mr. Nedreau. How are you?
very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, thanks. All
I'm
right,
also
so
here
this
with
is
Joe Cadet as well.
How are you? Happy New Year.
to you too. Okay, is this a new license or just a renewal?
No, it for whatever reason, it kind of flew under the radar. It was never submitted. So we actually sent in the licensing fee, and they says we don't even have it on record. So we did the proper thing and created the new documentation and sent it forth, and rest is history.
Okay. Is this the Dunkin' Donuts at what, at the Gulf Station?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. I just didn't remember.
Yeah.
So, all right. I see the fee has been paid. The submission has been made. All inspections done, Madam Town Manager there?
Everything is in order for this license.
Everything is in order. We have a floor plan, which has been the floor plan for a long time.
Yep.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions for the applicant.
None.
Well, this could be short and sweet, so I would entertain a motion. Everybody knows about the site, everybody knows their hours, so I would entertain a motion regarding the common vic license for KCM Donuts Inc., doing business as Dunkin' Donuts at 451 Mass Ave.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
and an aye for me. It was short and sweet. This is the way to start the year.
I don't think I've had such a quick meeting.
Well, I mean, we all know the business. We all know where you are. We know what you're doing. I don't know how it got flown under the radar
I
like
have
that.
no
but
idea.
Now we'll have it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Continued success there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
thank
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, next was supposed to be our interview for the TCP Building Design Committee, but as you heard us alert the town moderator, the applicant could not make tonight's meeting, so we will try to schedule this for next week's meeting. They don't have, I don't think the TCP Building Committee has a meeting in between then anyway, so it's not gonna, do they have one?
They have one next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, so he still should be able to make that, okay. Okay, current business, a vote to open the annual town meeting warrant on January 12th, 2021, and close the warrant on March 15th, 2021 at 4 p.m. When do we open it? You don't give a time to open it. Is it
Oh.
opening of day?
Oh, yes, business hours.
Okay. So these are, have you drawn up the timeline of the process for town meeting, like you have, like the calendar?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen it,
Mm,
but I'm assuming that this is pretty typical 3-month opening, right?
yes,
Or 2-month opening, sorry, 2 months.
it's all according to the charter.
All right. That's what we wanted to hear. Those words are the important ones, all according to the charter. And Mr. Jeffries is now joining us. Let him get on here. All right, let the record show that it's 7:14. Mr. Jeffries joined us. Mr. Jeffries, can you hear us?
I can. Did you
Right.
really wait for me to join?
No.
Okay.
Well, we waited for you at this segment because we saw that you were joining. But no, we've done tons of stuff already. We've done 14 minutes of business already, so.
Thank you.
So what we are on current business number 1, Mr. Jeffries, just to catch you up with our program. And we are discussing the vote to open the annual town meeting warrant on January 12th of this year, which is what, a week, next Monday, correct?
It's Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, sorry. And close on March 15th, which is that a Friday?
No, it is a Monday, I believe, because that was the new change.
Oh, that's right. That was the change, right? Right. We backed it out, right? So I have no objections to this. I am in support of this. It's a pretty straightforward request. I would open it up if anybody has any questions. And I guess we'll do the same thing along the way. If you could provide that calendar as soon as possible so we know what to expect, and as things get added to the warrant, we will, we can at least, I want to make sure that we're certain to note what got added from week to week. Just so everybody's aware of what we're putting on the warrant.
We'll keep it as a running agenda item. On
Yes, please. Yep.
We do need a vote, though.
Yes, so I would entertain a motion that we do have a vote. You did, that's actually the first word of the the item, so I'll entertain a motion that we vote to open the annual town meeting warrant on January 12th, 2021, and close the warrant on March 15th, 2021 at 4 p.m.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those, just a roll call vote. Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Ms. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye for me. Okay. Number 2, the town manager is looking for a liaison for the meetings with Monty Tech in regarding the old primary school landscape design. So if anybody is interested in said, are you raising your hand to speak, or you're raising your hand to say you're interested, or both?
All of the above.
Okay. So the goal would be like any liaison, is you would, work with them and listen to the meetings, provide any input from the board to them or from them to the board. I would support your nomination for this position as a liaison to this committee.
Do we need a vote on that, Tom?
We do need a vote on that. So I'd entertain a motion regarding it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We'll make the full motion, Mr. Marino. That way we'll be certain what we're voting on.
Okay, full motion. No, I'm just kidding. I make a motion to put Katie on with the Monitech, the whatever it's called.
Old primary school
Old
landscape.
primary school, yeah. Be the liaison between that committee and Monitech.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and an aye from me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so meet with the town manager and find out what their schedule is and when they meet.
I can give a little just update. We had our initial meeting 2 weeks ago now, before their break, and just did a preliminary review. I shared the notes from the October 31st meeting that the board had on site, kind of a general description of the vision for that property. And so there'll be 2 seniors from Monitech that will be working on this project, as well as the CAD instructor. And we should be having a meeting probably next week when they're back in session. So I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for volunteering for the position. Notice I didn't say where, because we don't meet any place anymore. We just meet online. So that should be a very interesting project. So I look forward to seeing how that progresses. Number 3, review the clearinghouse policy. And that's in our drive, a draft of the clearinghouse policy. So I see you on the agenda item eliminated the first 2 operative words, drug and alcohol clearinghouse product policy. And so if you want to run us through, do we have one already, by the way? Is this a revision or is this a new policy?
This is a new requirement due to a change in federal law. So it's coming down from the U.S. Department of Transportation that's requiring all states to report this. Basically stems from a major accident with a tractor trailer driver. You probably heard of that, where he had multiple offenses, and because it was in other states and it was unknown in the state that he worked in, that it went undetected. So the clearinghouse basically is for affects commercial driver's licenses and commercial learners permit holders regarding drug and alcohol violations. And it provides a centralized location for employers to do queries on prospective employees and existing employees. So it is a requirement that we're obligated as of January 6th to follow.
So is the draft right from the federal government? This is their
The
proposed.
draft was provided by our Labor Council, but a lot of the language comes right from sample policies and from what's required from the regulations from the Department of Transportation.
And it just happened this year, so it's required as of this year.
I have a question on the policy.
Mr. Jeffries.
Looking through this, I know that the Massachusetts allows marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes, but the federal government does not. And one of the things that it notes in here is a verified positive adulterated or substituted controlled substance test result. What substances are then included? Or rather, specifically, is marijuana excluded?
Yeah, I believe with a CDL, you still would not be able to, that would still be a prohibited substance.
Right,
The CDL.
I would agree. I think it's treated exactly the way alcohol is. So it's legal to have it recreationally, but you can't be you can't be driving a vehicle under the influence of it.
So, but I think so as I understand it, I mean, marijuana is, as to the best of my knowledge, is an eye test that you can do on site. But as far as any kind of blood or other tests, there's nothing that's going to tell you if someone smoked pot today or if they smoked pot 3 days ago. Am I fair in my understanding of that?
I'm not all that familiar with the science of testing it, so I'm not sure.
Okay. I don't have any other objection to the policy. My only concern that I see is that, you know, someone could be certainly not engaging in any kind of intoxicating substances while they're at work. You know, I would argue that 4 hours before work maybe isn't enough time, that it should probably be 8, which is what the federal government otherwise usually requires for their own employees. But it would seem that if someone is smoking pot, for example, on a weekend, that's really no one's business, but neither here nor there if we're required to adopt the language.
So Mark Terry went through this?
Yes.
Okay. Never really quite certain, like on B, employment queries, when it says the town will conduct a full or limited query. So I don't quite understand that. So we get to choose what questions we ask some people and not other people. Seems kind of arbitrary, but a lot of legal documents do, so. So basically a lot of these coverages of 1 to 4 are kind of the same. So in summary, this just says before we hire somebody, we have to look into the clearinghouse and find out if they've been reported by any of these violations. And then while they're employees,
We're
at least once a year, we have to go through the same process.
Correct.
Okay. Now, is this going to affect any union contracts?
It's already been provided to the affected union, which would be the DPW.
Okay. Okay. Well, having read through it, I'm fine with what it says. Makes sense. And if the union has seen it and they haven't objected, I have no problem. Would you want us to take a vote on this tonight if nobody has objection?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Well, unless somebody has any objections or anything that we want clarification, I would entertain a motion regarding the policy of drug and alcohol clearinghouse policy as provided to us from Labor Council.
Make a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
So number 7. So first, I think that in general, this concept is really good, but I have a couple of questions. So in number 7, it references an alcohol confirmation test above 0.04. And then it also notes down below the use of alcohol within 4 hours of going on duty. It would seem to me to be a little more prudent. And I know, while I don't agree with everything in here, that is 4 hours enough time for someone not to consume alcoholic beverages? Or are we going to assume then that so long as they're below 0.04, that is not something that needs to get reported to the clearinghouse?
I'm fine with the 4 hours. I'm assuming that's coming from, accepted practice.
Mhm.
I would assume that's where it's coming. I mean, I don't think anybody arbitrarily made the number up, but I don't have any problem with it.
I don't have an issue with it either.
Pretty standard. This is essentially the federal government just standardizing this whole thing. We've already been doing these. We already have a policy with respect to CDLs anyway. So that's the way I look at it.
Is this limited to CDLs, or is this, I mean, it says regarding individuals with a commercial driver's license, so that is CDL. Okay.
It's all CDL.
Yeah, commercial driver's license, right right in the beginning, introduction.
All right.
Any other for discussion?
Thank
Okay,
you.
roll call vote. Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
and aye for me. Okay. Next, we have charter review. So this by charter, section 7.7, subsection B, we have a bylaw review. And it says the select board shall at 5-year intervals in each year ending in 5 or in 0, cause to be prepared by a special committee appointed for that purpose, a proposed revision or recodification of all bylaws of the town, which shall be presented to the town meeting for reenactment at the annual town meeting in the year following the year in which the committee is appointed. The bylaw review committee shall consist of the town clerk, who shall serve by virtual office, 2 persons appointed by the town moderator, and 2 persons appointed by the select board. The committee in its final or an interim report shall include recommendations for such substantive change in town bylaws as it deems necessary or advisable. The review of the town bylaws shall be in conjunction with the town council or by special counsel retained for that purpose. Subsequent to enactment of the town meeting, copies of the revised bylaw shall be forwarded to the Attorney General of the Commonwealth for approval, and they shall be otherwise published, all as required by general laws. Copies of the revised bylaw shall be made available for distribution to the public at a charge not to exceed the actual cost per copy of reproduction. So last year being the banner year that it was, this was not addressed and not put into force. So we feel it's appropriate now, as things are at the very least not getting worse, and we have the ability to, now that government is functioning and during the pandemic, that we can look to appoint this, even though we're a year off from when we should have been. Not that that committee would have done very much anyway last year, but anyway, by charter, we need to be able able to appoint this body. It doesn't really show any way that we can not appoint the body. So really, it's more of a formality, but I will open it up for discussion. It's a lot easier now to do the bylaws because now they were codified in a very reviewable manner, and all of them put into categories and in not just pieces of paper that were put into binders in all different formats. So it's a lot easier for this bylaw review committee to review them.
Mr. Chairman, is the intent to appoint a committee and have them present any proposed changes to the bylaws at the annual town meeting this year?
Not this year, it will be next year.
Okay.
The following year at their appointment. It'll take, it would take at least 12, if they met monthly, it would take at least 12 meetings to just go through the ones that they have and review any potential changes. By doing it every 5 years, we seem to catch less and less things that need to be modified. When we first did it, some of these things hadn't been reviewed in 20 years and they totally didn't apply. So it was a real catch up the first few times that we've done it. But now 20 years into the charter, this is more of a cleanup task and make sure everything is current.
Do we have to make any formal acknowledgement of the fact we didn't do it when we didn't follow the bylaw about making a bylaw committee?
Yeah, I think I just did it. I just said that we were supposed to do it.
No, I mean, we're verbalizing that we didn't do it when we were supposed to, but how do we need to formally vote that we're changing the bylaw to follow the bylaw, not as it was meant? I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm being serious. Like it's
no, this is not a bylaw. This is a charter. So we can't just
Correct.
change the charter.
Right,
So
which is
no,
more important than a bylaw.
We just didn't follow the charter because of obviously overlying concerns about concentrating on keeping schools and government running during a pandemic. So we just didn't do it.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about it during 2020 and acknowledge or choose to not do it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody caught it, is to be very honest. I don't think we knew it and decided not to do it. I think we were caught up in other things and so nobody caught it. So
I would just also add through you, Mr. Chair, that the last time it was done, I think it was delayed as well, because when I began as town manager in 2017, that was the year that those bylaw changes were made. So that would be 2 years after the 2015.
right. So anyway, I think we don't need a formal vote of this. We should just advertise that we need people who want to do this. Obviously, the town clerk, by virtue of the office, is on the committee. And then the town moderator has to appoint 2 people, and then the board appoints 2 people. They can be people from this board, they can be people outside, it can be a hybrid of both. So we just get 2 appointees to the committee. So we should advertise starting today. So if you're out there and bylaw review is your thing, then we're looking for you. So anybody out there who is interested in serving the town and is interested in bylaw review, it is not, it's not just clerical, it actually is interesting work, and get a good sense for what kind of policies we have in town. And you get to comb through things and make sure we don't keep extraneous bylaws that make no sense anymore, and change things that obviously technology has updated or other conditions have caused to need the change. So we can put that on the town website, and that'll go on your town manager report as open positions.
Add one to the list.
Yes, just when we're getting low, and then we have 4 more. Okay. Current business number 5, discussion on approval process to discharge and carry weapons on town property. So there was a folder in our town, in our Google Drive, So by bylaw, talking about bylaw review, by bylaw, you need the selectmen's approval to discharge a weapon on public property. So that is the way it is written. It's just discharging firearms on public property requires the select board approval. In the way the agenda item is written, we're talking about discharging and carrying weapons on town property. So I know we were looking for another town council opinion. The one that's in there is from last year when we heard about hunting on property, on town property, from two gentlemen who proposed it to us and was subsequently denied. This agenda item is written, extends it a little more because there was questions as the Conservation Commission was going over their rules and regulations that did we have the ability to regulate the possession of firearms on public property. I think we're waiting for the formal approval from town council, but my understanding from a preliminary report by town council is that because we are under home rule charter, that we have the ability to do that. We have the authority to deny possession of firearms on public property by virtue of home rule charter. Mr. Marino.
Yeah, I read that, and I'd like to clarify that because it's very ambiguous and actually this statement seems to contradict itself. It says, let me read it. It says Massachusetts does not have a preemption law, or does not have preemption laws related to the carrying of firearms. Stated differently, state law does not supersede local law regarding their possession. The Home Rule Amendment Procedure Act reserves to cities and towns the right to adopt laws not, and this is in quotation, not inconsistent with the Constitution or laws enacted by the general court. So how can you prohibit somebody from carrying a firearm? Now, this is not hunting. If your Second Amendment right gives you the right to bear arms, I think that's going to be challenged. And he alludes to a couple of cities and towns that actually prohibit it on public land, and I think it's because it's never been challenged. So if you read the statement, it contradicts itself. It says you can do it, but only if it's not constitutionally, or if it's not inconsistent with the Constitution. So,
Right. I mean, so there's two different, and that's why it's preliminary. That's why he's writing for us, and we are due a more formal analysis of that, because of course there's two parts of that. There are two potentially competing parts of the of state law. One of them is what you just read that was in the quotes about it's not, as long as it doesn't go against the state laws, state constitution and laws passed by the general house. But you also, there are certain things allowed to towns under the home rule charter that state law doesn't preempt. And where this comes in between those two is probably very, very tricky navigation waters. Let's put it that way.
mhm.
Mr. Jeffries, you had your hand up first.
I agree with Mr. Marino's assessment, but I would go a little further and note that even with the language that's been provided, what it's indicating is that towns may, offer some kind of regulation here. And I think the concern that got us to this conversation was whether a conservation commission can make rules on the possession of firearms, which I think is what the question that I had was, and the concern that I raised was, which is I believe the answer to that is no. I do think that it may be possible for towns to certainly regulate things. And I do think that the town has the right to make a lot of decisions when it comes to that. But my concern is the Conservation Commission regulating the possession of firearms. I believe that is outside of their authority, which is, I know how we got into this discussion. But I think it's going to be hard to really have a good chat about this without a more thorough and distributed opinion from town council. So this, I would,
Yeah, I agree. And
Is it prohibiting the use of firearms, or is it prohibiting hunting? So you could carry a gun onto public property, but we can prohibit hunting.
No,
I think,
no. So just to be clear, Mr. Dwyer, the issue is the way the current, now they're looking at revising it, but the way the current conservation policy is that you're not allowed even to possess a firearm on conservation property, whether you fire it or not. You're not allowed to possess it. That is the way it's written. And they have asked, the chair and the commission have asked from town council a clarification on that too. Do they have the authority to do that within the conservation rules? Again, preliminarily, I think the answer was yes, but we want to see the final analysis. This is obviously important to a lot of people in town, and we certainly want to get it right. So I think we're having a very informal discussion here that will be more formalized when we get the final report. And when that final report comes in, Madam Town Manager, we probably should invite town council to be here, because inevitably there will be questions about it.
Certainly.
Ms. Adams.
Sure. I think this all began, and as Selectman Dwyer just alluded to, as a hunting issue. And now it's crossed into a discussion of the Constitution. So I feel like I don't want to get lost in this topic as the right to bear arms is now being discussed, that we also, I don't want to lose track of hunting as its own topic. I think there's a lot of people that probably fall on one side of an issue and another on the other. And I don't have anything against the Second Amendment, but I certainly have something against hunting on places like the Lane property. I just don't think are a good fit for the town. And so I want to stay as a discussion as this moves forward, that, I don't know if we need to really formally understand or discuss between the Conservation Commission, ourselves, what the rules are, who will be in charge in the long run, how the citizens feel about it. But I think the topic of hunting is what bubbles up and brings these things to the surface. And that's something we should stay focused on as its own topic.
Well, I would agree that there are two distinct topics. So the possession of firearms on public property is one completely separate issue than the discharge and hunting. So discharge, I don't think anybody disagrees. Well, I don't want to presume. We have all five of us here. Does anybody disagree that the select board has the right to decide, or needs people who want to discharge firearms on public land need the select board permission? Is anybody against that power? Okay, so we can have it as two separate discussions. So let's push aside the possession issue until we get a further discussion. I'll let we have two people who have their hand raised. I'll let them speak, but then let's concentrate on the hunting one, which is, according to last year's town council opinion, we should probably adopt or potentially adopt some cohesive policy about hunting on public property from a selectman point of view. Mr. Marino.
Yeah, let me just respond to what Mr. Jeffrey said a little earlier, and then I want to respond to that. What you just asked the board. I was trying to chime in, but I guess I didn't talk over you. First of all, I reached out to a member, or actually two, of the Conservation Committee, and I think they're just really haggling with the hunting issue, not the possession of firearms issue. That's my understanding. Secondly, I looked at that policy where essentially it's saying that the select board has to issue permission for somebody to fire a firearm on public property. And those public properties, I assume, if I'm not wrong, include some conservation lands. Well, their policy gives the right to hunt on conservation land, but in their policy, it would necessitate a hunter to not only get permission from them to hunt, let's say we'll use Hunting Hill because that's the only one you can do it on right now, and then have to come to the Board of Selectmen to get permission to fire his firearm. And if that's the case, I think it's convoluted. I don't think we should, if the Conservation Commission, who we appoint, has a policy that says they can hunt, why do they need to come to the selectmen to pull the trigger? I don't get that.
Oh, because that, first of all, they wouldn't have to get permission if the Conservation Commission allowed hunting by revising their rules and regulations. And they, on some or all of their properties, and were very clear in which ones you could do it, somebody wouldn't have to go to get permission from them. They would just have to come to the Board of Selectmen. And that's because of the discharge of firearms bylaw. So they wouldn't have to go to two places, they just have to go to one.
So what is this policy? I mean, what public land in Lunenburg would you allow the discharge of a firearm unless it's for, you know, track meeting and discharging a blank weapon or something like that? Well, I can't even think of an example where I'd want somebody to discharge a firearm other than, you know, like I said, the Hunting Hill property, which is presently allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I could think of some extenuating circumstances, but under general principle, I agree with you. I can't see of one that I would do without extenuating circumstances, that's for sure. Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, I want to circle back in response to something Selectman Adams said, as well as something Mr. Marino just said. So, you know, the Conservation Commission is looking at revising their rules on hunting. That's true. You know, I think that what I've brought up in a previous meeting, as well as mentioned tonight, is that in the process of looking into that, I realized that they also regulate the possession of firearms. And so I brought that back to this board to question whether that is within their authority. And I know that we can't, as you said, Mr. Chair, that portion of it has to be tabled until we get town council's opinion, and we'll have them here at a future meeting, because I challenge the authority of the Conservation Commission to regulate the possession of firearms. I just don't think they have the authority to do that. But the secondary issue of hunting, I mean, I do think that the Conservation Commission does have the authority, though I don't agree that it should be heavily regulated. I do think that they do have the authority to decide which properties hunting is allowed on or not. But I would believe that a better process would be that once they make that determination of what properties hunting is allowed at, that a resident would only need to come to this board to get the permission to be able to then hunt. Because according to the state and our bylaws, only this board can give someone permission to discharge a firearm on public lands. So it seems to be an unnecessary secondary process. You know, if this board has that authority to make that decision, then to have a secondary process for another board, it seems that it's fully within their rights to, like I said, to go about it in a much broader sense and just designate which properties hunting is allowed on.
And just again, just to be clear, what your last point is, because I've sat through the Conservation Commission's discussions on this, nobody's saying that you'll have to go to them. They're talking about, will they allow it, or will they allow it on all their properties, or will they allow it on some? And when they make their rules and regulations and say what's allowed where, you don't have to come to them, just like you don't have to go to them to say, hey, can I take a hike on the Cowdrey? That's accepted. It's part of their rules and process. If they go and allow hunting on certain areas, you won't have to go to them for permission. And they're not even suggesting that. It would only be the firearm portion that they would come to the Board of Selectmen. Ms. Adams. What, Mr. Jeffries? I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, is it possible for us to then provide them? My concern is that it may be something that can become a bigger deal than it needs to be. So would it be fair to advise the Conservation Commission that it is our understanding that to get permission, that the only process by which one can do that is to come to this board, just to clarify, so that a process does not get created?
I like I said, on all the meetings, they have not shown any desire to create a process. It would, they don't meet enough, and they don't really have that kind of authority. They have authority to recommend to allow uses on the properties, and those uses are blanket. So you don't have to ask for permission once they establish a use. And nobody's saying anything other than that.
Thank you.
Ms. Adams.
In regards to this, is there any way that, you know, townspeople or whatnot, if they became upset about the hunting, you know, so that something more substantial could be passed in terms of a regulation? See, I can't remember the parcels that two hunters came to a couple years back looking for permission, but they were very, I'm not sure if it was the lane, but I know it was a parcel that I hiked because I just couldn't imagine being out with the 4 kids and having a picnic and interfacing with hunters. Like and now more than ever, the conservation land is being used as much needed recreation. And I mean, it's packed. It's like a highway last time I went to the lane, and it's so heavily used by so many people in such a positive way. Allowing hunting on those same parcels like the lane or different areas around Mulpus, I think it detracts and takes away the opportunity for the positive use of the land for so many citizens and benefits just a few. I think with these lands and so much money, time, and effort has been put into purchasing parcels and creating parcels that benefiting the largest amount of people in the best possible way should be the goal of the town. It alarms me that we're discussing hunting or allowing hunting on them at all, because I think that detracts from their use to so many people. I wouldn't want to go out during hunting season and have my 4 kids scattered about while somebody's, you know, got their shotgun ready to go. I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely horrendous that this keeps popping up. And if there was something more substantial we could do to say, okay, yes, it's on Hunting Hill, but it will not and cannot be on this, not even with selectmen permission. I don't think it's appropriate for, you know, passive recreation to include bullets flying.
So first, I just want to make a technical clarification. So hunting is already allowed on those properties, but it's bow hunting. So there's no firearm hunting. So I just want to make the distinct point between the two. So bow hunting is allowed on all of those properties already, but it's just not firearm hunting. But I don't know if you were aware of that or not, but
I was, yeah, I'm more focused on the flying bullets.
yeah, no, and what's at issue here is the firearm. I mean, they, as a commission, and according to town council, who provided guidance for them under another opinion, certainly says that they have the authority to do it. So I'm not willing to take that away. If you feel strongly about it, I would ask anybody who's listening or anybody on this board to go to their meetings and submit written or verbal testimony to your feelings about it. There are a lot of people who voiced the same thing as you did, Miss Adams. I did as well. One of the meetings. So I mean, I'm against it. I don't see, even if they allowed it, I can't see, except in extenuating circumstances, where I would vote to approve firearm discharge on public property anyway. So I think it does everything that you just said. I think it gets at cross purposes, and I think you'll have less people using the property, and after spending money to make trails and want to have trail maps and everything, I think it puts it at cross purposes that people will not feel comfortable, and therefore will get less use. But that's my opinion. So Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah. You know, in concept, I wholly agree with you and Selectman Adams in that idea. I think that what holds me up is the Second Amendment. I question how much a government can regulate in light of the Second Amendment. But, you know, I think, as I understand our discussion point here tonight, I think it's going to be difficult for us to come up with a policy on how we can approve this when, you know, if members, as you guys have just expressed, have a viewpoint that there's never a circumstance in which you would ever approve someone discharging a firearm on certain parcels of land. So I think that as selectmen, that both of you certainly have the right to make that decision. But it's hard then to codify that into some form of a policy, knowing that it's, you know, it's really up to selectmen's discretion on this. So I mean, I think that this has been the case for a long time, and we've been policy-less without this. And I don't see the need now to create one. I think that if someone comes before the town and wants to go hunting with a firearm on the lane, you're going to be a no, and Katie's a no. I mean, you just said that. So I mean, I don't know what Todd's opinion is or what Jim's opinion is on it, but why make a policy then? I mean, there's really no need. And I don't want to say that as anything negative against you guys' viewpoints. I just think it would be a useless process if, for the most part, I think the general attitude is that very limited circumstances in which it will be approved.
Right. Well, we're going to hear from Mr. Dwyer now. Mr. Dwyer.
I agree with Mr. Jeffries here. I don't think making a policy is going to serve us well. I have no issue if someone wants to propose hunting somewhere, that they come in and request where they want to hunt. And, then we can question that applicant on a case-by-case basis, to either confirm that we feel that would be appropriate, that where they propose is safe for them to hunt, or the information they provide shows that, in a member's opinion, it wouldn't be safe to hunt. And we could each vote individually how we feel. I don't think this comes up enough to warrant a policy. I just think take it a case-by-case basis and move on.
So one of the things that the town council said last year, in his second to last paragraph, he says, the selectmen should exercise their discretion to allow or not hunting on public land with fairness and consistency. I think his point was, if you take it on a case by case, eventually, if you say yes to somebody, then you better have a really good, they must be an overarching reason why you said yes to them, and then other people said no. For personal editorial reasons, I would say that the policy we have is an overlay of what the Conservation Commission has, which is they don't allow hunting. This doesn't come up because we can't allow hunting with firearms on places they don't allow hunting to begin with. So it's a nice meshed policy. If they do change their policy, and I do hope they don't, then it puts us under the gun to say, okay, now the Conservation Commission says we can, and now we're gonna have to listen to people. I'm being clear that if somebody can't show me an extenuating circumstance, that my vote will be fair and consistent, it will be no. Ms. Adams.
Sure. I think this conversation rolls into another topic in terms of the conservation land always looking to acquire and put together more parcels. There's other reasons that land doesn't always have to be in the care, custody, and control of conservation to be conserved by the town. And so the fact that when land goes into their jurisdiction, it's further away from elected officials, it's further away from the citizens being able to implement change. I think when we talk about parcels of land and the hopes or attempts oftentimes to move them into conservation control, it's at times like these that you realize that it's harder and harder for citizens to implement change in a decision on an appointed committee versus one that is elected. Who has the authority over different things? I think it's important during those times to say, okay, well, who has the authority and how can citizens change the authority? And in this case, with land and rules like this and hunting, I think we're putting a lot of land in their control, and there's other groups that can be given care, custody, and control, like agricultural commissions. And I think it's time we take a look at constantly putting land in their control so that we have a more diverse outcome for the land.
Thank you for that, Katie. I agree with you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Again, the Conservation Commission still has this under advisement. They have not, they indicated that if they were going to make changes after the public comments they've gotten on 2 different meetings, that they would, if right now the draft shows that they're not making any change in hunting. But if they do, I've been told, and it was said on their last Zoom meeting by the chair, that would be posted and be a public meeting again, where they don't need a public hearing per se, but they'll have a public, they'll treat it like a public hearing, that they'll entertain the public to provide opinions and perspectives. So I would suggest everybody stay engaged with the Conservation Commission on that. As far as the other piece of this, the possession part, we will wait to get a further written opinion by town council, and then have a time when we can have town council join us on a meeting and we can discuss just that part, not the hunting part, but just the possession part. So. Everybody okay if we leave this subject?
I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to leaving the subject?
Oh, discuss.
Oh, the further discussion. Gotcha. Okay, number 6, the long-term planning of parcels sought by Conservation Commission and Open Space Commission to transfer to the care, custody, and control of from Select Board to either the Conservation Commission or the Open Space. So, Madam Town Manager, do we have any correspondence from them about any targeted properties they're looking at doing this for this upcoming town meeting?
Well, I'll give it, I included in my town manager report, just because it was a little lengthy. This was a action item that was brought up by Selectman Adams, one that has been touched upon on previous at previous board meetings, but not fully discussed by the Select Board. But so I reached out to the Conservation Commission chair as well as the Open Space Committee chair, and I heard back from the Conservation Commission chairman, Bob Pease, regarding a list of properties that they were looking at to transfer potentially from the care, custody, and control of the Select Board to the Conservation Commission or Open Space. And his response was that this is premature, that they have a lot of work to do on this topic, so they do not have a list to provide the board at this time. What their plan is to, they have a list of properties through the assessor's office, but it will require working with the assessors, the town collector, and public officials, including and town council, because there's a number of properties that are either in tax title or owner unknown or last known owner, or it being a property that's assigned to a different division within town government, including cemetery or public works. The Open Space Committee is not interested in conveying town-owned properties to the Open Space Committee, but they are interested in evaluating town purchase properties, tax title properties, and other owner unknown properties to develop recommendations to the Select Board to consider. For town purchase properties or tax title properties, these recommendations might include doing nothing, transferring them to one of the various commissions or boards that supervise land, such as schools, cemetery, parks, or conservation, or even auctioning them off to return them to the tax rolls. For owner unknown properties where the town does not have a clear title, it's likely any recommendation would be limited to transfer to the Conservation Commission or possibly the Parks Commission. If the Open Space Committee is going to recommend transfer of parcels to boards or commissions, the Conservation Commission chairman anticipates they would work first with a relevant board or commission in order to develop a well-reasoned and fully informed recommendation for the Select Board to consider. However, that means members of the Select Board could read about or about the interactions or listen to the meetings prior to the committee approaching the Select Board. So in terms of managing the flow of information, I would suggest the chairman of both the Conservation Commission and the Open Space Committee contact me prior to the meeting that the topic will be discussed, so I can inform the board in advance of that meeting. So you'll be informed beforehand.
Well, thank you for that part. That last part is the critical part. Even before they address another board, we should be, I mean, if it's through you, they could also send it directly to the BOS at lunenburgonline.com and say that this is an article, a parcel they're looking at, and this is the board they're looking at potentially transferring ownership to or recommending transferring ownership to before they start meeting with them. So we are not reading about it some other way than direct notification from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be critical. So I think that's what we were looking for. Ms. Adams, was that what you were looking for? Oh, I'm calling on you just as you're raising your hand.
Yeah, and I did have a comment in terms of reading about it and whatnot. I was working on an open meeting law violation. And then I heard back from the Attorney General's office that I could submit it for their processing of it. And I had a clear case out about it in regards to the properties that were put on the warrant for the fall, but between hybrid learning and different work commitments, I didn't follow through and send it to the Attorney General's office because I've done that before. And even if I were correct, nothing changes. So it's a process of just proving yourself right. And I've done it before and I didn't follow through on it. But I'll have to point out during this, it's not about following along the meetings, because when this came up before, it wasn't on their agendas. And a citizen cannot follow a topic. They cannot show up because it was specifically mentioned there. And I felt like it was intentional to say, we're welcome to follow along the meeting prior to it coming to us. And of course we are. But the absolute essential part of that is that they post it on their agenda. If it's not on their agenda, I can't show up to follow it along. None of us can go to every meeting of every board and committee just to see if something non-agenda showed up. This is on our radar. If any properties are being discussed by specific addresses, in order to do that, I really think people, owe it to the citizens to follow open meeting law on this topic and put land discussions on their agendas in detail. So that's my comment on that. There's far more than just following along if you don't know where to follow. And then in terms of the topic, I really liked the information from the open meeting group talking about, looking at parcels of land for use by cemeteries, parks. AgCom wasn't mentioned, but they're another group that can be in possession of land. And in terms of the Conservation Commission targeting land parcels, what is the advantage to, say, having nondescript town-owned land versus putting it in conservation? Because we can still do trail maintenance over town-owned land. So I don't know if somebody can walk me through what is the advantage of constantly giving land to the Conservation Commission? Because I actually think that sometimes there's land programs and things that apply to town-owned lands, like park renovation monies and different things that do not apply to conservation controlled properties. So sometimes we may be working at a disadvantage to head all the open land in one direction.
So I'll speak as one person. One of the big differences is if you put things under the care and control of the Conservation Commission, and I'll defer to Mr. Dwyer too, who was on that commission, is that it is very, very difficult to get them out. So they are more long-term possessions. To get something out, to sell them or to repurpose them or rezone them is incredibly difficult. So it's a much more secure conservation, pardon the double use of the word here, conservation of property. Whereas the town owns it, somebody can say, hey, I think we should sell this parcel, and we could sell it and somebody could build a house there or do something else there. But when it's under Conservation Commission, it's not that easy. That's one of the major differences.
I think you summed that up nicely, Tom.
I don't know if there are others that I'll let other people say, but that's the major difference. Okay, so well, it sounds like both chairs of those committees and commission will let us know what they're doing, before even or as they're building, going into it, just so we're aware of what they're doing and what they're proposing.
I'll make sure to reiterate that as well.
Yep. Okay, anything else on that subject? We'll go to number 7, authorization of the chairman to sign the grant of exclusive parking easement to the Historical Society. We have that document in our Google Drive, which is basically a formalization of the town meeting Article 39 of May 4th, 2019, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. giving them the easement, exclusive parking easement of certain number of spots, and the deed goes over what we did it for the value of $1, and it gives all the boundary points of this. So basically just formalizes and legally is what the town meeting voted on. And this vote would authorize me to sign instead of having everybody sign.
I move to authorize you to sign for the grant of exclusive parking easement to the Historical Society.
Second.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. Marino?
Aye.
And an aye from me. All right, I will come in either tomorrow or Thursday to sign that, Madam Town Manager. Number 8, approval of minutes. We have minutes from November 3rd, 10th, and 16th of 2020. Does anybody have any amendments, changes, modifications to those? And if not, then I would entertain a motion in approving those minutes.
Want to take them one at a time or all together, Mr. Chairman?
Unless somebody objects, it's just, since they're all roll call votes, it makes it easier to do them all at once.
I move we approve the minutes of November 3rd, 2020, November 10th, 2020, and November 16th, 2020.
I have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. Marino?
Aye.
And an aye from me. All right. Warrants. So last week, I believe it was last week, that I went in and signed the following warrants: a payroll warrant in the amount of $914,586.46. Payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $199,842.67. A Medicare Part B reimbursement of $108,797.00, and an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $773,113.47. Item 10, any action file issues?
I have just something that might come in under this with regards to that policy that we're going to be working on for appointments.
Yep.
I've been doing some research on that and trying to help that along a little bit, but I guess I have a question about that. It looks more like a procedure, not a policy, because we already have a policy on that, and if we enact it, it would be in conflict with the policy we already have. So just, I'm bringing this up just as food for thought, because going forward, I guess we're going to have a workshop on this policy, I assume. So just.
Yeah, it'll be a procedure.
It will be, okay.
Yeah. And I think if I remember correctly, I asked everybody to submit what they would want their procedure to be, and then I could analyze them and overlay them, and we can get rid of it and knock this out by where the overlaps are, and then any discrepancies or any differences between them we can discuss. But I don't want to have a whole meeting discussing things that people agree on. So it would be nice if everybody thought out their own procedure, submitted it to me, just like we do the town manager evaluations, and then I could compile them into a list and send them out to everybody, and then we can review them. So.
And that's what I intend to do. I just wanted to clarify that it looked like a procedure more than, I think we were calling it a policy, and we already have one. So.
Yep. Well, if we have we can change our own policies too. Policies aren't bylaws, so we can adopt our own policy to replace what we have.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. Depending on what you come up with for a procedure, you may have to amend the policy.
Yeah, that's fine. Luckily, we have the authority to do that since it's all within the guise of the select board. So, Any other action file issues? Any committee reports? I guess I'll start. We met with the capital planning committee and we had what ostensibly is our final meeting. We prioritized all the submissions from the different departments over the last couple of weeks and came up with our final list that we submitted to the town manager for her use in the capital plan presentation that will be required by charter, and then also going forward in the budget season. So it included items from, all areas, from both departments of public safety, from DPW, from facilities, some infrastructure projects. I think it's a fair assessment across the board of really prioritizing, day-to-day needs like turnout gear and bulletproof vests for the police and fire departments, to making shell improvements in the Ritter building in town hall, to a culvert on Flat Hill Road for DPW. So I think it was a good faith effort in assessing the town's needs. The total of that came to $2.2+ million of all those, which obviously when the town manager does the budget, there'll be a cutoff point in there somewhere. Where that is, where that line gets drawn will depend upon what the state budget season looks like. But that is completed, that work is completed. Any other committee reports?
MRPC will be meeting Thursday night at 7. I'll be attending that meeting.
Okay, old business. We have a 2021 license renewal for KB Agamon, doing business as KB Cars LLC at 555 Chase Road. It's a Class 2 auto dealer. It was just a late breaking entry that didn't miss. Okay.
Didn't get in time before the last December meeting.
So it's just a straight renewal. Is everything check out over there?
Yes.
Okay. So unless anybody has any objection, I would entertain a motion to the Class 2 auto dealer license renewal for KB Agamon, doing business as KB Cars LLC at 555 Chase Road.
I'll make that a motion.
To approve?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I need further discussion. Hold on. Well, before we do a roll call. Ms. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Dwyer.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries.
Aye.
Mr. Marino.
Aye.
And an aye from me. Okay, town manager report and COVID-19 update.
I'll start with the COVID-19 updates, shorter report. The Board of Health reported 381 positive cases as of January 1st, 2021. And the state report indicates 355 cases as of December 29th, 2020. This is.
Can I ask you a request, Madam Town Manager? Can you ask the Board of Health if they can, when they give this report to us all, can they include how many new cases? Because I always have to go back to last week's to find out, okay, how many new ones there are. It'd be nice if we knew how many new cases were week for week.
That was my next sentence.
Oh, sorry.
So this is an increase of 49 cases from the previous week.
All right, thank you.
To answer your question. Other new information, the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health has taken advantage of an opportunity offered by the Department of Public Health to get a COVID-19 vaccination clinic for first responders within the district. And this is being rolled out by the state as well for all first responders. So they're in the process of rolling out vaccination clinics for first responders across the state. Approximately 200 first responders within the district will be able to get vaccinated. The location will be in Boxborough at the Regency Hotel, and this will be at the end of January for the first dose. So they will, Jim Graffi has been sending out this information to our first responder departments, And they have been asking for, as well as people that will work those clinics, our EMTs, paramedics that can work those clinics as well, that clinic. That's all the news for right now related to COVID-19. For the town manager report.
Sorry, I had a COVID question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Usually you do deaths and cases, not to be macabre, but what's the death? Is it still just one?
It's still one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Announcement of existing vacancies. There's a vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, one vacancy on the Cultural Council, one vacancy on the Historical Commission. There's still a vacancy on the TCP Building Design Committee until that appointment is made, and one associate vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And as referenced earlier tonight, 4 vacancies on the Bylaw Review Committee. Interested people can fill out the application forms, which can be found on the town website, and completed forms can be sent to the select board's office. In regards to town parcels as well, after it came to the attention of the town that different town-owned parcels were being encroached upon by different property abutters, we have worked with town council on drafting no trespass letters that have been sent to property abutters that have their personal property on town land, or in one instance have paved an area of town-owned land. The parcels that have encroachment issues are 51 Parmenter Road, 671 West Street, Fire Road 12, and 1625 Mass Ave, which is part of the Cowdrey Conservation Area. So we will continue to work with town council and the property owners to ensure that the private property is removed from town property and the land is restored to its original condition.
On that, Madam Town Manager, I'm not sure what the conservation status is of all this property, but I mean, are we also offering to sell them portions if they need it?
These property owners, no. No, they've just been sent these no trespass letters that they'll have to remove their private property from the land. North Cemetery ADA Parking Lot Improvement Grant. I applied for a grant through the Massachusetts Office on Disability to perform all the necessary preparatory work, paving, and installation of a sidewalk with handicap railings at North Cemetery, and received notification that we were awarded $32,000 for this project. This was a pleasant surprise, as the grant program, as I've applied for this is the 3rd time, and
That's a charm, I heard.
3rd time's a charm. So it was a nice surprise to receive that notification. As part of the next steps for the project, the DPW director will be working with an architect on a design to ensure it meets all the ADA requirements, and construction will commence in the spring because we have to use the grant funds by June 30th of 2021. Quick turnaround. Flat Hill Road Culvert, the DPW director contacted me today after a follow-up inspection performed by Mass DOT on the Flat Hill Road Culvert, and this is what Chairman Alonso announced at the beginning of the meeting. So that, due to signs of settling and failure of the culvert on the south side of the bridge, Mass DOT asked us to close the south side lane of the bridge until they release their written recommendations based on today's inspection. The DPW has put out barriers and signs will be installed shortly, and they've ordered jersey barriers to be installed when they receive them. The worst case scenario is that Mass DOT requires the town to shut down the bridge entirely. The written report will be forthcoming with recommendations and any requirements, and I will update the board when I receive that information. Update on the Flat Hill Road drainage issue that was discussed at a previous board's meeting. So as a follow-up to that discussion, the DPW director sat out a proposal from Brian Marchetti of McCarty Engineering to connect a topographic utility and lot line survey of Flat Hill Road and Page Street within the project limits defined on the conceptual drainage plan dated October 27th that was presented to the board at the November 10th meeting. Mr. Marchetti has been engaged to perform this work as the next step in addressing the drainage issue on Flat Hill Road, and our conservation administrator will be performing the necessary wetland flagging that will be included in the existing conditions plan. The survey work will commence next week, and we will expect an existing conditions plan within 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the weather. Update on invitation for bids and request for proposals. The assistant town manager is currently handling the invitation for bids on cleaning services for town facilities, and those are due on January 14th. And she is also working with the executive director at MassTOS to develop a request for proposals for solid waste and recyclable material collection and disposal services, as our current contract with Casella expires on June 30th. Based on recent webinars that both the assistant town manager and I have attended with that industry experts on the current market for solid waste and recyclables, we expect our cost for this service to exponentially increase.
I don't like the word exponentially.
Yes, neither do I, but that's what we're being forewarned about as far as anyone going out for this service at this time. The Brooks House, in January of 2019, the select board met with the Architectural Preservation District Commission, Historical Commission, and Historical Society, and came to an agreed upon future use of the Brooks House, which was to sell the building, but not the property, in order for it to be relocated while maintaining this historical building within town. The select board put forth an article at the May 4th, 2019 annual town meeting, Article 23, to convey the building, which passed. I will be asking the assistant town manager to proceed with putting together a request for proposals to carry this out, unless the board has any objection to this.
No
Great
objection.
idea.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
All right. Karazak funding update. As part of the latest federal stimulus package, it has been relayed to us from the Executive Office for Administration and Finance that the deadline for the use of Karazak funding has been extended from December 30th, 2020 to December 31st of 2021. We have submitted roughly 555,000, of which we were eligible for reimbursement of approximately 434,000. Our total eligible amount of Karazak reimbursement funding for the town is $1,027,771. An update on pay-as-you-throw bags. As a follow-up to a public comment from a prior select board meeting about the lack of pay-as-you-throw bags at the various retailers and whether there was an option for online ordering, I contacted our bag vendor, Waste Zero. They responded that there was 1 week that Hannaford changed their status from auto delivery. They took themselves off of auto delivery, but that was corrected. And so there was 1 week probably that they definitely were short bags. The Waste Zero also sent me a inventory of what has been delivered and what was scheduled to be delivered. And based on that, it looks like there should not be any shortage of bags. So I would ask residents to contact our office or the DPW if they encounter a problem with getting pay-as-you-throw bags at the retailers that carry them regularly. In regards to purchasing them online, Waste Zero was able to set up an online bag ordering, but this program, which is called Safer at Home, is not designed for high volume and is geared towards individuals that cannot get to retail stores that sell bags. The packages are 2 large bags totaling $5.70, and there's a shipping fee of $2.75 per pack, and it takes approximately 3 to 5 business days for delivery. please contact our office or the DPW for the web link for that ordering.
If I can interrupt here, because I have, a long time ago, I had talked about, and it's still true, that the large bags don't fit in a traditional outside container. And you said you were going to get me 2 bags, which you did, which I conveniently misplaced, and then found them when I unpacked for Christmas. I found them among my things. I guess they were bags from Acton, I believe, that you got. Well, those bags do fit. So
Okay.
whatever size bags those are, they fit the barrel without having to tear them or rip them.
Okay.
So sorry it took this long for me to get to them because of my misplacement of them, but they work very well. Whereas, especially in the cold weather now, if I put one of our large bags out there, I either have to drape it so that it doesn't really go around the rim, or I have to pray that it doesn't rip as I put it around the rim. I'm left with 2 very bad choices.
I don't recall, did the Acton bags, did they have a tie?
I believe they were drawstring, but I can double check for you. I'll get back to you tomorrow, but I believe they do have a drawstring.
Okay. We can address that.
And part of my incredulity that like those trash bags, the trash barrels we all use are standard, no matter where you get them, Home Depot, Lowe's, Aubuchon, Mackey, I mean, wherever you get them, they're the same. I can't believe that they would make bags that you can't put in those containers. It just doesn't make much sense to me.
I know I have that information as far as the dimensions.
And I bless the day that we went with the extra large bags, because those really are a blessing, I have to say. They're another big staple in our household.
You may not get to world peace, but if we can solve trash bags.
Yeah, hot
No,
top.
it's little baby steps, baby steps.
As far as department updates, I have a number of them from the different departments. Land use, the 20-year population study performed by the UMass Donahue Institute has been completed. As part of their scope of services, Donahue will update the data once the 2020 census information is received as well. As the next step in the master planning process, the planning board will be proceeding with putting out an RFP to do the services and facilities component of the master plan next. This section identifies and analyzes existing and forecasted needs for facilities and services used by the public. In terms of major construction projects, the Tri-Town building is well underway. And just to add, that report from the UMass Donahue Institute, the land use director put it up on the planning board's page on the website if anyone's interested in seeing that information. From the finance director reported that all the budgets have been updated in Munis to reflect the special town meeting amendments, and the tax rate was certified at $17.12 per thousand, which was a decrease in the tax rate due to a rise in assessments. From the treasurer collector, third quarter bills will be mailed before the end of December. So this meeting, we had a department head meeting in December, so this is after that. And they will be due February 1st. From the Council on Aging director, the governor approved a rate of $12 per elder for fiscal 21. And this will add $25,000 to their budget for this additional funding from the state. Council on Aging has currently stopped indoor programming, but is still busy doing their drive-through events. They also received a donation from PJ Keating of 100 stockings with goodies for seniors, which were all distributed before Christmas. And the Council on Aging director also reported that the Stand for Seniors program is going well. From the public access manager, public access has been doing some programming with local events and is currently filming the Discovery Center for Citizen Engagement series, and will be live streaming a Lunenburg Public Schools basketball game on the educational channel. The Public Access Committee recently upgraded their server software that failed during a recent live meeting, and they're in the process of hiring a consultant to make recommendations on the layout and materials they will need for the proposed renovation at the TCP building for the cable space at that building. The library director reported that the trustees have selected a consultant for their long-term strategic plan that is expected to be wrapped up by the end of June. Having a long-term strategic plan will make the library eligible for grant opportunities through the state. The DPW director reported he has been busy since he started in November, including some early season snowstorms. He and the facilities director are currently working on getting a couple more quotes for the senior center and Ritter kitchen remodels that were part of the approved capital projects at a previous town meeting. The fuel tank project is underway, but it has been delayed due to a delay in getting the tank materials. The tank is expected to be delivered in mid-January, barring any further delays. The contractor has completed as much of the project as possible and will be ready to go once the materials are delivered. The Pleasant Street Bridge project has been awarded to a contractor, and he will notify town officials in advance of the detour going into effect. The director reported there are new additions to the capital plan he requested, including the Page Street Culvert, which they're continuing to monitor to make sure it does not become an emergency repair. The fire chief relayed they received a $15,000 grant for turnout gear recently. Rescue 2 is currently out of service as it was hit by another driver and is currently waiting to get fixed. The estimated time that it will be out of service is unknown and will be dependent on the ability to get parts due to delays from the pandemic. Fire engine 5 is also currently out of service as an electrical shortage in the chassis wiring occurred, but it was caught quickly, but that too will be out of service due to the electrical damage done. The truck will be towed to the dealership this week, and we will be getting an estimate for the repair at that time. The principal assessor reported that she is continuing to work with Vision on the conversion from the old CAMA software. Property assessments increased 4.5% and will be reflected in the third quarter real estate bills. Forms of lists for personal property accounts are being generated and will be sent out shortly. The town clerk reported that the general code provided their updates for all the recent town meeting votes that affected the code, with the exception of the stormwater article from the special town meeting, as that will need to be approved by the Attorney General first. The town clerk is changing companies for census forms due to the lack of timely response from the old company, and those forms will be sent out in January. Those forms will include a notice for dog licenses, which are due in April. In terms of other meetings, the school committee has a meeting on Zoom on Wednesday, January 6th at 6:30 p.m. Conservation has a meeting on Zoom on Wednesday, January 6th at 7 p.m. Planning board has a meeting on Zoom on Monday, January 11th at 6:30 p.m. The Parks Commission has a meeting on Zoom on Monday, January 11th at 6:30 p.m. And the Sewer Commission has a meeting on Zoom Tuesday, January 12th at 5 p.m. And those are all my updates.
I have one question as you were going over the department updates, and there's been questioning about a decision that was made several years ago, I believe, when the town stopped offering the sand at the DPW for residents. And I think that there was discussion or lack of reasoning that people and I don't even recall why it was decided upon. I know that some towns still allow it. And I don't know if you want to discuss with the DPW director about, whether it makes sense to make it available. I don't know what the cost is and how much people were taking, if they were residents and everything, but I just toss out the idea, if it wants to be revisited.
So this issue comes up every year that I've been here, and decision was made prior to me coming to Lunenburg. As I understand it, it became highly abused. Like contractors would show up with their trucks and fill their trucks with sand for various jobs. It wasn't for it. That's where the abuse occurred, as I understand it. So it became not just for someone's driveway. It became much more of a commercial use.
Okay. Just toss it out there. Anybody else have any questions about town manager report?
I don't have any questions, but I do have one comment, which is that I think that the DPW director has hit the ground running. So this certainly, all evidence of his tenure here has been excellent so far.
Agreed. I agree. Okay, so I did have one thing that I was supposed to announce, but I'll announce now. That the community outreach meeting for Greenleaf Botanicals, the people who are applying for the cannabis license on Mass Ave, they are looking to have their community outreach public meeting on February 4th, Thursday, February 4th, 7 p.m. And the Zoom information will be given as we get closer to that, which is about a month away. But that is when we are scheduling it for. So anybody who's interested in attending that, listening, participating, speaking, etc., that is the date, Thursday, February 4th at 7 p.m. Okay, upcoming meeting events. Next week, we have the workshop with the APDC, the Architectural Preservation District Committee, and we've invited the Historical Commission. I will be out on vacation away from town, but I will be on that meeting because that's an important meeting. I see what somebody on the phone has their hand up, so let's whoever is on the phone, I am looking to unmute you. Let's try that again.
What do they have to press? *6 or *7 or something?
I think you may have to press *6 if you're muted.
Or 9, I think it is.
No, 9 is raising your hand, right? I think *6 is unmuting. If you are listening on the phone, I am trying to unmute you. There you go. Please identify yourself first, I guess.
Hi, I was just waiting for the public comment section, that's all.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna leave you unmuted because we're almost there. So next week is the workshop. I will be dialing in, although I won't be here. So that's gonna be a discussion about the old primary school and talking with the APDC about our meeting on the 31st and what our vision is and going forward. So should be a very, very good discussion. Okay, so public comment from the public. So caller, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Bill Tyler, 5 Graham Street. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I'm also chairman of the Cemetery Commission. I wanted to thank Heather for her persistence in obtaining this grant that she alluded to earlier. Like they say, the third time, I guess, is a charm. I also want to thank the DPW director for his forthcoming help in the design and engineering of the project. I realize not everyone gets excited about the cemeteries as I do, but this is a project that's been on our radar for a while. Not only is it going to provide handicap access to the mausoleum area and the niche wall, the parking lot and portion of it is going to provide winter access to the parking lot, which right now isn't allowed because it's dirt, and it's not it's really not conducive to plowing. We get requests and comments almost every year about people wanting to access the cemetery to visit their loved ones. And while, during winter conditions, it's not open to vehicular traffic, it certainly encouraged people to go in and walk around if they want to. There's nothing wrong with that. But up until now, there's never been a safe place for them to park. If there's a lot of snow on the ground, they force to park on Holman Street, and it's just not a very safe area. So this is going to provide an area for the people to park and walk around, and we'll be able to have services at the niche wall. So it's just a project that's is very, very important to us, and I'm just very, very happy to see it coming to fruition. I just wanted to thank everybody involved. That's all. Thank you.
I'll take the opportunity to thank you and your commission for doing the work you're doing at the cemetery as well. So it's nice to see the improvements and see all the work being done there. And yeah, it's hard to get excited about the cemetery generally because when you're going there, it's not a happy time. But when we have parking lots going in, so more people can visit the graves of their loved ones, it is a good good thing. So thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
For all of that.
And on a related issue, it's nothing to do with the parking lot, but as everyone's aware that the cemetery garage is in midst of construction, and I just was informed a couple of weeks ago that Monty Tech is going to be finishing the construction and starting next week. So hopefully that's going to be finished this spring. So that's another thing we're going to be happy to get completed, because due to the COVID-19, their building schedule was really thrown haywire, and they weren't able to get out here this fast fall. So again, thanks to everybody that's involved, and everybody have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, Bill. Any other public comment from the public? We did have some late people joining here. I don't know if they were joining to comment, but maybe not. Okay, any public comment from the board? Hearing none. Oh, people are coming in and telling us that cable is down. So, well, we're at the end of the meeting, so I'll let Pac. This is being recorded, so it will be on YouTube tomorrow if you've missed part of it. I apologize for not knowing that cable was down. So if there's no public, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Again, we will have a workshop next Tuesday, January 12th. Same bat time, 7 o'clock. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I have a second.
Second.
Yes, Katie has seconded, although I have muted her, or she muted her. All right, roll call. Mr. Dwyer,
Aye.
Ms. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
Mr. Marino,
Aye.
and an aye for me. Good night, everyone. See you next week. Stay
Good night.
safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Good night.
Aye.
Night.